He lived alone for years, tending his Arizona farm until he rescued the last Apache woman left behind. What began as an act of kindness became a journey of trust, courage, and unexpected connection. Watch till the end, subscribe, and tell me where you're from. Let's get started. Samuel Hayes had grown used to the silence that stretched across his Arizona farm. The wind whistled through dry mesquite trees and swept dust over barren hills. He had learned to track the sun across the ridges, to find water in hidden creeks, and to make his peace with loneliness that had settled in like a second skin. Each morning, he woke to the same sun rising over the horizon, painting the earth in orange and gold. He moved through the day with practiced routine, tending his small herd, repairing fences, and speaking only to the occasional hawk or crow. The years had passed without anyone else disturbing his solitude. But that morning at the market everything changed. Samuel overheard whispers carried on the breeze, hushed words from men who had gathered to watch an auction. They spoke of a fading settlement, of goods, and of people being sold. Something in the rhythm of the words drew him closer, curiosity stirring where it had long been dormant. He approached the auction pens cautiously, noting the dust rising from hooves and boots. At the edge of the crowd, he glimpsed her, an Apache woman, the last one left behind after her tribe had been forced from their lands. She stood tall despite exhaustion, her eyes wary, scanning the crowd for threats or escape. The auctioneer called out bids for livestock and tools, then paused, drawing attention to the woman. There was an uncomfortable silence, the tension in the air thick as dust. Samuel felt his chest tighten, a mixture of compassion, disbelief, and a strange sense of duty washing over him. He had never felt compelled to act like this before. Men jostled each other, some jeering, others curious. Samuel felt a pang of anger at the casual cruelty, yet he also felt a quiet resolve building inside him. He would not stand idle. He had a small farm, a simple life, and perhaps it was not much, but it could be enough to offer her safety. The bidding began. Low at first, rising with each call of a hand or shout of a coin. Samuel hesitated, then made his move. He placed a bid, then another, feeling the eyes of the crowd on him. Whispers rippled. Who was this solitary farmer daring to intervene? Yet he held firm, unwavering in his choice. Finally, the gavel fell. Samuel had won. A hush spread over the crowd as the reality sank in. He had bought her freedom, but he knew that word alone was not enough. She was not property, not an object, and he would not treat her as such. She was a person, strong and unbroken. She stepped forward cautiously, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of fear, defiance, and curiosity. Her dark gaze assessed him, searching for intent, for weakness, for betrayal. Samuel nodded gently, signaling that he meant her no harm. Slowly, she lowered her stance, though she did not speak. Her silence filled with caution and intelligence. The ride back to his farm was long and quiet. The sun dropped behind distant mesas, casting long shadows across the desert. Samuel guided his horse beside hers, careful to give space yet offering presence. She moved with measured grace, her posture proud despite the weight of exhaustion and uncertainty. Upon arrival, the farm stretched before them in its simple, sprawling beauty. The wind carried the scent of earth, dry grass, and the faint aroma of cattle. Samuel dismounted and gestured toward the cabin, inviting her inside. She hesitated, then followed, each step deliberate, as though measuring trust in the uneven floorboards beneath her boots. Inside, the cabin was modest but clean. A fire crackled in the hearth, offering warmth against the desert chill that seeped through cracks in the walls. Samuel offered water and a small meal. She accepted cautiously, her eyes still wary, scanning the room, noting every detail. He did not rush, allowing her to adjust to her new surroundings at her own pace. The evening passed slowly. Samuel tended to chores by the fire, repairing tools, checking doors, and ensuring the cabin was secure. She sat nearby, observing, her presence quiet but unwavering. Samuel felt a strange comfort in her vigilance, an unspoken understanding forming between them in the soft glow of the hearthlight. Night fell over the desert. The wind carried the howl of coyotes across the open plains. Samuel lay down on his cot, keeping a careful ear on the sounds outside. He knew danger might still lurk in the shadows, yet he also felt a growing sense of purpose. He had a reason to protect someone again. She finally spoke, her voice low and steady. "I am Nayeli," she said. Samuel nodded, committing her name to memory. It was a name that spoke of heritage, strength, and resilience. He understood then that she was more than survival. She carried with her the spirit of her people, even in the face of displacement. Days passed with routine. Samuel and Nayeli worked together in the fields, tending animals and repairing fences. Communication was slow at first, punctuated by gestures and the occasional word. Yet trust grew with each passing day. The bond between them was quiet, forged in the shared effort of survival, respect, and mutual reliance. Samuel noticed the way she moved, deliberate and careful, never wasting energy but always observing. Nayeli learned quickly, helping him with cattle, understanding the patterns of the land. In return, he shared knowledge of farming, water sources, and how to navigate the desert's treacherous terrain. Their cooperation became seamless, an unspoken rhythm born from necessity. One evening, after a long day under the sun, they sat outside on the ridge, looking out over the land. The desert stretched endlessly, its beauty harsh and unforgiving. Nayeli spoke softly about the tribe she had lost, the people forced from their homes. Samuel listened, understanding that the desert had claimed more than land. It had taken family, history, and time. Over weeks, she became part of the farm, yet never a possession. Samuel never forgot that he had bought her freedom, not ownership. He respected her autonomy, her wisdom, and her resilience. Nayeli in turn trusted him, relying on his strength and his willingness to share life in a harsh and unforgiving land. Together they faced small dangers, wild animals, harsh storms, and the occasional traveler with ill intent. Each time they relied on each other. Samuel realized that his years of solitude had prepared him for this partnership. And Nayeli understood that safety did not mean surrender. It meant choosing to trust someone worthy of that choice. By the first year's end, the farm was thriving, crops grew, cattle flourished, and the cabin became home. Samuel and Nayeli worked side by side, their relationship rooted in respect and shared purpose. In a land that often demanded solitude for survival, they had found companionship and strength in each other. The desert nights remained long and quiet, yet no longer lonely. Samuel knew that life's meaning had returned, not through wealth, land, or possessions, but through the presence of someone brave, intelligent, and unbroken. Nayeli's eyes reflected the desert, endless, enduring, and full of quiet strength. Samuel stood at the ridge one morning, watching the sun rise across his land. Nayeli approached silently, carrying water and food for breakfast. Their hands brushed briefly, a simple gesture of trust and acknowledgement. In the vast wilderness, amidst hardship and history, two souls had found a fragile yet lasting bond, proving that even in the harshest desert, humanity could endure. Nayeli stepped lightly across the sun-baked soil of Samuel Hayes' farm, her eyes tracing every fence post, every ridge, every shadow the morning light cast across the dry earth. She noted the patterns of his routine, how he moved among his animals, how he measured the wind for signs of storms. Every motion spoke of skill, patience, and solitude. Samuel watched her quietly, seeing her curiosity as both cautious and respectful. She did not intrude. She observed. Even in silence, she communicated understanding. Her presence brought a rhythm to the farm, subtle yet profound. Days of labor no longer felt entirely solitary, each task shared with a silent, vigilant partner. They rose before dawn to tend the livestock, the air crisp and cold against their faces. Nayeli learned the delicate art of guiding cattle along the narrow, dry creek. Matching her movements to Samuel's, their cooperation was quiet, efficient, and marked by an unspoken trust that grew stronger with every shared chore. Lunch was a simple affair. Bread and water eaten beside the shade of the cabin. Nayeli rarely spoke, but her eyes followed every gesture Samuel made, as though cataloging the patterns of his life. In her quiet observation, Samuel felt a connection forming not through words, but through shared endurance and respect. Afternoons were spent repairing fences, clearing brush, and tending the small garden that defied the harsh soil. Samuel taught her how to bend the wire just so, how to reinforce posts against the desert winds, and how to sense the subtle signs of wildlife approaching. Nayeli absorbed it all with patient determination. Evening brought the long shadows of the mesas across the farm. Firelight flickered in the cabin as Samuel cooked, the aroma of dried meat and herbs filling the small room. Nayeli assisted silently, her hands steady, her movements deliberate. The silence between them was never empty. It was a language of its own, filled with understanding and mutual reliance. Nights were long in the desert, with wind rattling the cabin shutters and distant coyotes calling across the plains. Samuel kept watch, rifle by his side, while Nayeli sat nearby, her eyes reflecting both fatigue and alertness. She learned to anticipate danger as he did, ready to respond without fear or hesitation. As the weeks passed, Samuel noticed subtle changes. Nayeli smiled more, a quiet warmth appearing in her gaze. She spoke occasionally of small details, memories of her tribe, stories of the desert, or observations about the weather. Her voice, when used, was soft but confident, carrying a strength that matched the rugged land around them. Samuel found himself sharing more than he had intended. Tales of lost family, of raids long ago, of loneliness and longing, passed between them in quiet evenings by the fire. Nayeli listened without judgment, offering gentle nods, small insights, and a presence that soothed wounds he had long thought permanent. They began exploring the surrounding land together, following tracks of deer, noticing the shift of seasons, and marking water sources hidden among the ridges. Each day strengthened their bond. Samuel realized that buying her freedom had led to something neither had anticipated: companionship, partnership, and a shared resilience born of survival. One day, while checking fences along a distant ridge, a storm rolled in from the west. Lightning split the sky and thunder rattled the desert floor. Samuel and Nayeli worked swiftly, securing livestock and reinforcing shelter. The storm tested their coordination, yet they moved seamlessly, a team forged in necessity and quiet trust. After the storm, the desert glistened with renewed life. Pools of water reflected the clouds above, and the air smelled of wet earth and sage. Samuel and Nayeli sat by the creek, letting the wind dry their clothes. They shared a quiet laugh at their soaked state, the sound carrying lightly across the open land. Over time, Nayeli grew comfortable enough to tend small portions of the farm independently. Samuel watched her handle the animals, repair fences, and manage the garden with a skill and care that impressed even him. Her presence was no longer an intrusion, it was an essential thread in the fabric of his daily life. One late afternoon, as the sun cast a golden glow over the hills, Samuel observed Nayeli watching the horizon. "Do you miss them?" he asked softly. She nodded, eyes misting with memory. "Every day," she replied, "but I have found something I did not expect. A place where I can survive, where I am not hunted." Samuel's heart swelled with understanding. They faced occasional dangers: coyotes threatening livestock, the harshness of unrelenting heat, and the occasional wandering bandit. Each time they worked in tandem, responding with careful planning and courage. Samuel realized that Nayeli's knowledge of the land, combined with his experience, made them nearly unstoppable in their isolated desert world. As months passed, their relationship deepened not through romance, but through profound trust, shared hardship, and mutual respect. They relied on each other in ways neither had expected. The land, once a lonely expanse for Samuel, now felt alive with their cooperation and quiet companionship. One evening, under a sky filled with stars, they shared a simple meal outside the cabin. Firelight danced across their faces. Samuel looked at Nayeli and realized she had become his equal in every sense. He had not merely provided shelter, he had discovered a partner whose courage matched the desert's unforgiving nature. Winter approached, bringing harsher winds and colder nights. Yet the farm thrived under their combined efforts. Fires burned brighter, fences stood stronger, and the animals were safe. Samuel and Nayeli faced the season together, relying on ingenuity, patience, and the silent understanding that their bond had become the heart of this land asterisk. They marked the passing of seasons with small celebrations, harvests, successful livestock counts, and moments of shared laughter. The farm, once a place of solitude and routine, had transformed into a haven, a testament to survival, endurance, and quiet human connection asterisk. By spring, the desert blooms reflected the transformation in their lives. The landscape, harsh yet beautiful, mirrored their own growth, strength tempered by care, resilience reinforced by partnership. Samuel no longer felt the weight of isolation. Nayeli had changed the rhythm of his life, infusing it with purpose and companionship asterisk. One morning, as the first light hit the ridges, Samuel watched Nayeli moving through the fields, confident and deliberate. He realized that this partnership, born from necessity, had become essential to his survival and happiness. She had brought life into his solitary world, proving that even in the Wild West, trust and respect could flourish asterisk. Their days continued with labor, learning, and quiet companionship. Nights were spent by the fire, sharing stories, observing the stars, and appreciating the simple miracle of safety and friendship in a harsh land. Samuel no longer measured his life by solitude, but by the strength of the bond they had forged asterisk. In the vast, unrelenting desert, two survivors, one rancher and one Apache woman, found balance, trust, and connection. Their story was not of conquest, but of respect, resilience, and mutual care. Together they thrived, proving that even in isolation, hearts could find companionship and purpose asterisk. By the end of the year, the farm was thriving, and the bond between Samuel and Nayeli was unshakable. The desert had tested them, yet it had also given them a rare gift: partnership, trust, and the quiet warmth of knowing they would face the harsh world together.